Okay, and we are recording. So, let's get into it. One of the things that you'll notice is last episode it was all about learning the very, very basics. So now, what I wanted to do was have a bit of a look at the fundamentals of drawing and more than just C, S, and straight lines. So what I did was I went out and I had a look at this YouTube video. I'll put the links in the description. And this person goes through it very well. I really like it. Couple of quick points is when you're drawing, we tend to draw it as a ball and not as an actual lie, and constructions would just draw the outline instead of drawing the actual shape it is. But one of the things that I'll do is, if you want to give yourself a bit of a draw and do a stick figure, do a normal stick figure however you would, and then what I'll get you to do is just draw a stick figure and then instead do the body as an S or a C, just to add some gestures, and you'll notice straight away that it's 1,000% better. The other thing as well is you've got like anatomy, so rules of construction, color theory, rendering, perspective. So they're all very important, the fundamentals. So this episode's going to be about the 80-20 rule, which is just min-max. So you want to put in the minimum amount of effort and get the maximum amount of return. The reason why this is important is that it allows you to get the best results. So it's a curious factor because what you want to do is, well, effectively, perfection can be a death note, especially for business, because if you look at a business, and if you've ever tried to start a business, perfection is an absolute killer. What I mean by that is, if you keep waiting and waiting and waiting until you've got it perfect, the issue is that when you go out to the market and you see what people actually want, your version of perfection is not their version of perfection. So what I mean by this is that if you have a bit of a look at what you wanted to do and then got it 80% ready and then took it out to the market, you could then pivot and tailor and then tweak it to be what the customers actually wanted. What this means then is, say, if you were building your business and you felt that this feature really needed to be in there, you could be the only person that thinks that feature's relevant. And if that feature is stopping you from going to market, you're actually just hurting yourself and no one else, because you're not getting it out to the public. And the public doesn't even really want what you're adding in. So it's a common gripe, especially in the computer game world and a lot of those areas where products are released unfinished, and it's a very fine line between annoying everyone and then using what they want, giving them what they want and keeping them hungry for the rest. This just goes into that early adopter, mainstream and laggard theory on the adoption of technology curve. I'll go into that in a future video, but in essence what it means is, using the computer game analogy, or even as a fashion designer or anything like that, if you release something in a small batch to paying customers, it's very important that they're paying customers, because everyone has an opinion until they have to part with their money. So if you can make it towards people who are actually paying customers, they're the only people who actually care and vote with their wallet. So people are always going to be able to get things for free if they're crafty enough or intuitive enough. But the people that give you their money are your most important people. So what you want to do is give it to them, see how they react. Then you can do the tweaks that needed. So it'd be alpha or beta in computer games, or it'd be the prototype fashion items that you make. So the good aspect of this is that it gets out and gets you exposed to customers without killing your customer base by releasing something that isn't finished. So this is very important on where the 80-20 rule is. And so this contradictory goes against what I was talking about with perfect practice. So the idea of perfect practice is, yes, if you're going to practice something, do it perfectly. And that's about practice. So definitely in the unseen, practice as perfectly as you can. But then when it comes to going out, you have to do what you have to do. There's things like MVPs, which are minimum viable products. I'll make another video on that in the future as well. And so what this allows you to do is it allows you to get it out at the minimum level that is acceptable by the user base, and then allows you to tailor it in a way that is actually plausible and able to be done. And so with the 80-20 rule, that's much the same. And so if you were to look at the 80-20 rule and the perfect practice saying, you need to use both of them. You can't just use one or the other, because you do need to have a refined product, especially when you go out towards the mainstream and the laggards, but you also can't let that stop you from getting out products. So it's the whole adoption curve where you have the people that want to, like when you try and implement something, you try it, you're in your comfort zone, and so you're either going to find it too easy and not challenging enough, or quite challenging. So when you find something quite challenging, there's two ways. You can either be inspired and then be like, this is exactly what I want to do. And then it's a very fine line, because if you cross over that I'm excited line, it's very easy to get into the oh crap, what have I gotten myself into? And that is something which a lot of businesses suffer from. It's called analysis paralysis. And it's where you're looking at an idea and it's so overwhelming that it drains you more than it empowers you. So it's very easy to get that, and what you have to be able to do is recognize how much you can push yourself and how much you can actually implement, because I would make the argument and say that implementation is more important than perfect practice. However, there comes a time where you do need to, once you've done your 100th drawing, 100th prototype of the same thing, or 100th alpha, you do need to progress it beyond that to just progress your skill set, because the quick wins of doing it at the very start are diminishing. It's going to be diminishing returns. So an example is, if I draw an eye for the 100th time and it looks the same as an eye on the 50th time, I'm not pushing myself towards that perfection, and that's where you need to go. You need to be able to explore that and pick what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. Currently, there is so many areas where my drawing can improve, so I expect to do more of the 80-20 rule. There will come a time where, say, once I've got my shading and rendering down, once I've got the textures down, once I have the colors down and the perspectives and the different angles and orientations, yes, there will come a time where I need to sit down to improve that, to give myself a new set of skills. But for the moment, I just need the quick wins. It's very salesy, so you need to focus on your pipeline to some extent, but you need to have the quick wins on what you are able to do. So the 80-20 rule is something that I firmly believe in. You still do need some form of perfection, because especially as soon as you hit the mainstream and the laggards are they're the most unforgiving customers, And they have a right to be. They don't want to use your technology. They are forced to it, otherwise they are left behind. So, as an example, this is those people who are forced to change operating system on their computers, or the 80s fashion is no longer in, so they have to dial it down a bit. And look, that's just laggards in a sense. So, it is what it is. I like the 80-20 rule. I like the practice perfectly rule. So use them in a fine line. Make sure you avoid analysis paralysis, and get out and have some fun. Chat to you tomorrow.